Welcome back to Pete Classic Cars, and welcome to a video that is finally not on a Jaguar XK of some kind. So sorry about that. We are moving away from XKs, I promise. I've got some very big projects coming up and some really big news, hopefully in a video in a couple of weeks. That's going to change everything, so stay tuned for that. But today it's beautiful weather, it's a Sunday, it's my day, and we're going to be working on what's arguably my favourite car, the Rover SD1. Now, it's kind of been sat unloved for a while. If you're anything like me and work on a fair few cars, you'll know that your own cars always get kind of put to the back of the queue. You're always fixing the projects, the ones that you're doing to sell, my wife's car. You know, you've always got another focus. So your own car always gets put to bomber queue. That's going to change a little bit. I need my Rover back. I need to be driving it. Look at it. I need to be out in my car. So we're going to start doing a few more videos on the SD1. I have been getting parts together, I've been buying parts and I've been researching parts, and nothing fits. I think I mentioned in a previous video, nothing fits on the engine conversion. You change one thing and you've got to change three more. Finding parts that work together is not easy. It's taken a while, but I'm getting there now. So we're going to hopefully make some quite decent progress today. Little small jobs, but they all add up to the bigger whole picture. So if you like this content and you like the channel, please consider subscribing. It really is helping me out. We're moving on to bigger and better things, as you'll see. And yeah, we're going to make the most of this sunshine and get some SD1 work done. Let's crack on. Okay, so one of the things that was pointed out to me is that, well, I think I mentioned in a previous video, I should say, that the throttle cable was too short and I was going to get a longer throttle cable made. Someone in a previous video, and I can't remember who it was, thank you, whoever it was though, mentioned to me, and I should have spotted this, that I can literally just rotate the throttle body round. So if I turn it around like that, the throttle will be on the top, the throttle cable will then fit, and arguably it'll look tidier because this big block will be down the side. I'll just have that on the top. Now I need to take this off anyway, because I've bought a blow-off valve. Now, I wasn't going to fit a blow-off valve. Somebody mentioned to me that it helps with turbo stall. It's going to fit there in this pipe, so I need to take this pipe off. I need to shorten the intercooler lines, and then this is actually going to fit in there. And then we'll get it all piped up with the vacuum lines and everything. So we need to take throttle body off, intake pipes, shorten those. That goes into there. That's going to be the first project of today. So let's do that. There's a lot of this where you have to mock everything up and kind of fit it, take it off, refit it, but it's all part of the job. What I'm hoping to do is get everything mocked up fairly quickly from here, and then within a couple of weeks I want to get it to a point where I can take the engine out. Right, so that's that off, and we're going to rotate that round like that. This is going to get blocked off. We might need that vac line though, so that's going to sit like that. And then my throttle line, hopefully. Shall we test it now so we know? It's going to fit in there. Oh, it's going to fit like a dream. Like that. Yeah, that works. Okay, so that goes around there, into there. Yeah, looks better, doesn't it? So that's the joiner I was using, and that's what it's going to be replaced by. So we need to shorten one of these pipes, which I'll go and do now. And then we'll get it fitted, piped up. Okay, so that's the pipe shortened and the blow-off valve in. It's adjustable. I think we'll leave it well, wherever at the moment, somewhere, we can figure that out. Now, from what I've been told, and I don't know much about turbo cars, so correct me if I'm wrong, this needs to connect to the inlet side so that it can open by the vacuum generated in the inlet when you close the throttle. So you close the throttle, the vacuum that's in there opens the blow-off valve and releases any excess boost pressure in here to stop it going back and creating turbo stall. So I think, I've checked, this goes up to the intake side of the throttle body. So I'm pretty sure we can just pipe that up. If I've got this wrong, tell me, because like I say, I'm not amazing at this. So we're literally just going to pipe that up. I really don't like how that looks. Should I get like a little P-clip onto there? Would that look too much? I don't know. Let's go for there somewhere to start with. Need some more vac line. So that's going to go on there. Now, do I want that to be sat like that forever? Absolutely not. It looks terrible. Should I rotate this round maybe? Put it down? Possibly. But for now, that's on and done. So we like... really don't look good, does it? If I could P-clip it there somewhere. Just look terrible, wouldn't it? I might find somewhere else to put that. I've got a couple of spare vac points on the inlet manifold. I might use one of those. But for now, it's on. Right, next problem. I need to mount an alternator somewhere here. I was going to run power steering, but I'm not anymore. I'm either going to run a manual rack or I'm going to depower that one. I did put the power steering pump back on, but there's just no room for it. So it is what it is. I have to either run a different rack or depower that one. We'll get onto that. Alternator. So I've got an alternator. I've got two alternators. This one is off the 620 engine, and I've got another one off the Tomcat. It needs to sit obviously somewhere about there, but there's not a lot of room. So what people do, or what you can do, is use a Discovery MPI alternator bracket. Now, they're rare, like very rare, but I managed to find one. It's taken a few months, but I found one. Now, if you like Discovery MPIs and rare parts, look away now, but I've had to chop the bottom of it off. Why? Because the 4 bolts that there was a tab on the bottom of here about that big, 4 bolt is where my engine mount bolt's on. So I couldn't use them. So yeah, I found a super rare part and then I've chopped it in half. Now, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to send this away to an alloy welder and I'm going to get like another rib welded in there as like a strengthener. We'll get rid of that obviously. And then we're going to have another one like that to strengthen this, because I do want to run that. There's going to be an idler wheel on there for the auxiliary belt. Don't really know what I'm going to use that for yet. I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, so this bolts straight onto the side of the engine. 3 half-inch bolts, and it should mount the alternator. We're really getting close to this side of the engine being done, and then we can move around the front. We need to do a bit on the water pump and water pump pulley, get the coolant hoses sorted, and then we're onto the turbo side. Once that's done, the whole thing's coming out, and we're going to weld up all the unnecessary holes, sort all the wiring out, get the engine bay painted, and get it back together. So yeah, little things like this make all the difference. So let's get this on. So I would say anyone contemplating this swap, don't. It's not a quick job. Anyone that tells you that it'll bolt straight in is lying. It won't. It won't. It's not even close to bolting straight in. Physically the engine fits, but apart from that, literally everything else doesn't. People will tell you that an O series sump off an SD1 2 litre will fit, and it doesn't. It doesn't fit the flange on the bottom of the engine. You need a Discovery MPI sump. People tell you can use a modified, modified inlet manifold, and you can, but it's a lot of work. Again, Discovery MPI forward facing. Yeah, everything, literally everything. Then you've got the T-Series uses like a combined water pump, power steering pump that sits down on the passenger side of the engine. It won't fit with the engine mount, so then you've got to figure out a cooling system, either an electric water pump or a Maestro EFI like what I'm using, but then the outlet hose points the wrong way, and yeah, it's not an easy conversion. With hindsight, would I do this again? No. I just thought it would be cool, and I still think it'll be cool, but I want to use this car daily, you know, and I miss using it. I wanted more reliability, more power, and a fun car. What I should have done is what everybody else does. There's a reason that when people don't like the 6 cylinders anymore, they just buy a V8. And I'm starting to see why. I mean, what I should have done is buy like a 4-litre V8 out of something like a Chimera. There's plenty of them being broken out there, everyone crashes them. So buy a 4-litre V8 out of Chimera, convert it to fuel injection, convert this car to fuel injection, so run a return line. And this car would have been back on the road in, I don't know, a couple of weeks. Right, alternator. Watch the alternator not fit now. So the alternator's got to fit somewhere about there. Right, so that's the alternator on, and it'll adjust a bit as it needs to. I'm going to run the adjuster off this bottom hole. Don't know if you can see it. Just the alternator adjuster is going to run off there. That's not going to be there, so we don't need to worry about that. I really want to take it off, but I don't want it spilling power steering fluid everywhere when I move the car around, so it's a necessary evil to leave it connected at the moment. Tuck it down there out of the way. Right, so alternator on. That looks pretty good actually. So we're going to run a multi V-belt onto the water pump, across there, and an idler belt there to help tension it. And that should be the electrical side of things pretty much sorted. I'm going to run the original P6, P6, it's because I've got to work on P6. I'm going to run the original SD1 alternator bracket that I salvaged off at 2.6, and that'll just bolt on there and give me the adjustability that I need. God, it's busy enough, like Duxford, isn't it? Right, next job. What else am I doing today? Ah, right, yeah, so water pump. The water pump has got to be modified. It's pointing the wrong way. It's pointing that way. We need it to point either that way or straight forward. So I'm going to get it chopped and welded so it comes straight out. I found this random hose in the garage. Don't know what it's off. And I was going to use it, but I don't know how old it is. I can't remember where it was, but it's got a massive grit split in it, which is annoying because it's the perfect shape. So that goes down onto the bottom of the radiator and then would connect onto the water pump if the water pump was there. So I need a hose that's of that shape, basically, which is why I'm keeping it. And that's why it pays to never throw anything away. Well, for a while. In other news, the crank pulley needs spacing forwards because it doesn't line up perfectly with the alternator. Don't ask me why. I guess the Discovery MPI had a different crank pulley, so that's something else that needs modifying. It's not miles out, but it's far enough. While we're on the subject of water pumps, you can probably see that it doesn't have a pulley on it. It would have had just a V-belt. I need it to have a multi-rib belt, so I've bought this. This is off a, I want to say Land Rover TD5, TD4, something like that. For whatever reason, I thought my water pump was a 3-bolt fixing like that, and as you can see, it isn't. and the centre bore's tiny. So I need to open up the centre bore of that, and I need to re-drill some holes, and then that will fit on there, something like that. It'll sit right back there. It does miss my timing belt, I did check, honest. So that'll sit there, and then the multi-V belt will go around it. Now, I don't think I can use this belt, but this one will do for mocking up purposes. So it'll go around, and so on. You get the idea. Right, so let's modify a pulley. I'm not going to bore you with that. It's going to be quite a lot of trial and error, so I'll come back to you when I've modified that. You know how it is when you're about to do one job and then you get distracted by a second job and don't end up actually doing the first job yet. That's kind of where we're at. I was just going to go and modify that pulley, and then I remembered the oil cooler has just been doing that for the last, I don't know, 3 months. And I've had these rubber bobbins that I've bought, and they're going to mount it on there. But the reason I didn't put them in is because the holes that I drilled in the slam panel and the holes in the oil cooler are both too small. So I need to open those up so I can actually do it. Now, I've got a step drill that I've put down somewhere. Hang on. That's a step drill. And I'm going to send that through. These are magic, they're brilliant. And that will open up that hole to be that size, and then I can get the oil cooler bolted on. Once the oil cooler is mounted properly, I can get the oil lines made, which go from there down onto the bottom of the engine. They're going to run that way, down behind the radiator, and that's another job done. Once the oil lines are done, I can make these top intercooler mounts that I've been saying I'm going to make for ages, and I can also make the spacers for the top of the radiator, which are there and there. So one job leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. So yeah, let's get it done. One of the last jobs I want to get done today is mounting the coil pack. So when I originally bought this engine, it was a distributor engine out of a 220 Tomcat, but I'm converting it to run a coil pack distributorless ignition, obviously. So Rover 620 coil pack, as you can see, with the leads. And I want to mount this on the bulkhead out of the way, somewhere where it's out of the way, it's not going to get too much heat. And I need to insulate it from the bulkhead so it's not getting too much vibration. So to that end, I've made this, which is like 3-4 mil thick plate. I've whacked 4 riv nuts in there, made a couple of alloy spacers, and that'll all bolt up onto the bulkhead. So you'll have that like that, and then that'll bolt to the bulkhead like that, and then the coil pack will bolt to this. Now, I didn't video making this. Mel keeps having a go at me because she says I should. Let me know what you think. Are you bothered about seeing me make stuff like this? I don't know. Let me know in comments what you think. Should I show you making things like this, like making the bits that make it all fit together? I don't know. I find it, well, it takes a lot of time for not a lot of reward, really, so I'm always not really sure. Let me know. If you want to see it, I'll start recording it. In the meantime, let's get this bolted on, and then we'll be able to mount as coil pack, won't we? So, yeah. Ideally, don't step on your camera when you're going to do that. So that literally goes on there like that, with a spacer either side. And it's going to be easier for me if I just get in engine bay for this bit. And there we go. One coil pack mounted to the bulkhead, wiring plug faces in so we can route the wiring. Leads will tuck away nicely behind the head. So today that is coil pack bracket made and fitted, thermostat housing refitted, alternator bracket fitted, alternator fitted, alternator tensioner fitted. I fitted the blower valve, rotated the throttle body, and destroyed my oil cooler, which I didn't show you, so I'm probably gonna have to buy a new oil cooler. Not everything goes to plan, but it's one of those that I'm being brought an oil cooler. Fantastic. Right, so I opened up these holes. I don't know, can you actually see that through there? I don't know if I'm in the right place.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, lovely. I opened up these holes to riv nut it, which was a great idea, except the rubber bobbins I showed you earlier on were the wrong thread for the riv nuts. So after I'd opened that up and taken some of the paint off my lovely new oil cooler, I realised that they were wrong thread and I had to drill the riv nut out. I think the oil cooler's fine, to be fair. It's got a couple of scratches on it, but there's no holes in it or anything, and when it's in like that, you're not going to see. You know, I'll splash a bit of paint around it. So I've not done that today. I did want to do it, but I've not. I'll come back to that another day. Version 2. But yeah, although it doesn't seem I've made much progress today, you know, it's a lot of little bits at this point. So it's all little bits, and it'll all come together quite quickly. And as I say, once the dry build's done, I can take the engine out. The progress will be a lot faster, and I suppose it'll look visually better for you guys because, you know, I'll be painting the engine bay, I'll be fitting a new brake servo, the engine will get refreshed and look lovely. At the moment it's all the boring stuff, so like I say, you know, bear with me. It all is being done for a purpose, but I appreciate it's not sometimes the best, most entertaining thing you could be watching, but we do as best. Right, we'll carry on. Alright, bonus footage. I can't leave things alone, and I couldn't leave it like that, so Mel's found me some nuts and bolts that actually fit the rubber bobbins. They're obviously immaculate, so they'll get replaced at a later date, but at least, you know, we can bolt it up properly and it's not just going to be swinging around. So now they literally go up through there like that. Probably get some nice nylocks or something for the top, something that looks nice there, and then we can bolt that down. And Mel's telling me the 13s, so I've got no reason to doubt her. So we're just going to get a 13 and check. Looks smaller than 13s to me. Oh, that's why we pay you the big bucks. Ta-da! One fitted oil cooler that doesn't flap around in the breeze. So now I can measure up for the oil cooler lines, and it's another job ticked off. So yeah, that's isolated with the rubber bobbins. I actually think it looks nicer sitting a little bit further forward than it did. It was just bouncing off at radiator before, which weren't ideal. So that's another job done. I think we'll call it a day there. Pretty much, I think that's 4 or 5 hours work, and it looks pretty much the same as it did. But that's just the way sometimes, you know, especially with an engine conversion, they're never as easy as you want them to be. We've made some good progress though. Alternator on, like I say, throttle body rotated, thermostat housing on, so on, so on, so on, as you've seen. So next time we'll be sorting the cam belt out, cam belt tensioner, water pump, getting the oil cooler hoses made and fitted, and getting the water pump pulley fitted, getting the spacers made for the radiator, and basically finishing off that side of the engine and the front of the engine. The exhaust manifold for the turbo is being sent away to be welded. Hopefully it'll be away by the time you see this video, and when that comes back, obviously we can make all the induction side, all the exhaust side piping, intercooler piping and so on, get the turbo mounted. So I'm going to try and make as much progress as I can on the SD1 as quick as I can. I've got a lull. The XKR, as you've seen if you've watched the previous videos, is finished. Although I should be cracking on with P6, I love to procrastinate with that car and not do it. I really do need to make some progress on it, and I have been doing bits and bobs, but you'll see them in a future video. So yeah, I'm going to try and get as much done on SD1 as I can, really, before the next project arrives, because when this next project arrives, and over the next few weeks, as you're going to see in an upcoming video, I am not going to have a lot of time. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It does help me out. Like the video, comment what you think of the SD1, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.